Hello Nottingham College, my name's Arthur. I'm going to be your host today. My co-host is
Faye.
And we are here with
Summaya.
Okay, Summaya, so you have just come from your breakfast show for BBC Radio Nottingham. Can you tell us a bit how you got into radio?
Absolutely. So my path was a little bit bonkers. It was quite unusual. My background's actually in accountancy, so that's what I did at uni.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
It was economics and politics. And then BBC Radio Nottingham, around 7 years ago, were running a talent competition. It was like X Factor for radio.
Okay.
And anybody could audition. You had to tell a 60-second story. It was at the Theatre Royal. There were 4 judges. They all had buzzers. And a mate of mine said, just go along and do it. But I had no experience in radio. I'd never done radio before. So I just turned up. I auditioned. 186 other people auditioned. And then somehow I won it. And that meant that I got my own show on BBC Radio Nottingham, 7 p.m. till 10 p.m. Monday through to Friday for a year. So that's how I started.
And you progressed from that through there?
I have, yeah.
Great. So how did you hear about the show?
BBC Radio Nottingham?
Yeah.
Just a mate of mine, it was actually the day before, there was a Facebook post that went out. The campaign that BBC Radio Nottingham did at the time was called Untapped. So it just so happened that he saw this post and was like, go for it. And I was like, why would I do that? Like, I could never see myself as a radio presenter. It wasn't something I was interested in doing, which I appreciate is a bit bonkers to say now. But literally, Facebook and him persuading me to go. And thankfully, we saw it in time because it was literally the day before. Had I not seen it, then I wouldn't be where I am now.
Some might say it's fate then.
Yeah, maybe you could say that, or just really lucky.
So what would be your dream gig to see?
My dream gig, well, I love making documentaries and I really care about telling stories from communities that we perhaps don't hear as much, whether that's young people in care, to people in the prison system, to individuals around the world in third world developing countries. So when I get the chance, I would love to be able to travel more with work, and I might be able to do that through sport and the sport stuff that I do. But I'd love to tell documentary stories from more underrepresented communities around the world whose stories we don't hear enough.
Okay, so leading on from sport, we know you did a big, the Paris Olympics, was that 24?
It was, yeah.
Okay, so can you tell us a bit about your journey there and how that was and the events you corresponded on?
Yeah, absolutely. So Paris was a bit of a bonkers one because I actually did a podcast called Brown Girl Can't Swim.
Yes.
About 3 years ago, I think now. And
That's won awards, hasn't it?
It has,
Can you tell us a little bit about that now, quickly?
Yeah, of course I can, yeah. So Brown Girl Can't Swim followed my journey as a brown girl, not being able to swim. Rebecca Adlington set me a challenge of learning in 8 weeks and then doing a 500-metre open water challenge. But it wasn't just about swimming lessons, it was actually about the barriers that my community, as a South Asian woman, a Muslim woman, may face when swimming. So it was kind of an investigation into what's stopping women swimming, what can we do about it, and what's stopping other ethnic minority communities. I didn't expect it to blow up as much as it did. It won the best podcast at the British Sports Journalism Award.
Yeah, which is just incredible.
I know, tell me about it. It was up against like Sky Sports and The Athletic and BBC Sport. It was the year of the Qatar World Cup as well, so I was in the same category as them and I thought, what have I won this for? But it was incredible. It won the best podcast at the Asian Media Awards and then a Nottingham Award as well for contribution to community, which was the same year that The Left Lion got theirs as well. So that was really nice and full circle because the first journalism role I ever did was with The Left Lion, sort of on work experience. So that's how that podcast came about, and that's significant to my journey to the Olympics because prior that, I'd not done a lot of sport stories. And because it was a multi-platform campaign, so there was the podcast and it was on telly and it was online and on social media, I kind of had the skills in terms of being able to do journalism in different forms to be able to apply for the role at the Olympic Games, which is what they wanted. So my job was to provide coverage and content for all of the local radio stations and all of the regional outputs of the BBC. So like here in Nottingham, we have BBC Radio Nottingham, BBC Midlands Today, across all of the athletes and all of the sports at any time. So it was really intense, but it was incredible, an incredible thing.
Great.
Do you have a highlight from that experience?
I do actually. So it always comes to my mind. So potentially controversially, my favourite moment wasn't actually a GB medal. My favourite moment was when Pakistan won the gold medal in the javelin. Now, Pakistan, I'm Pakistani, so Pakistan, you know, we're not great when it comes to winning Olympic medals. It had been a few decades since we'd won one, and I remember I was at the Stade de France, and when you watch the athletics, there's lots of different sports happening at the same time, and Ashad Nadeem was the javelin athlete for Pakistan. And the first time he chucked it, he didn't do very well. So I was like, oh, it's not great, is it? The second time he chucked it, I think it was the second time, he broke the Olympic record.
Wow.
I know. So not only did he win gold after decades of Pakistan, but he broke the Olympic record. And then the guy that was after him was his friend who was competing for India. He got silver. But the thing that I loved about that story is that there's a lot of historical tension between India and Pakistan. But there's a lot of people that love each other as well, you know, that have got friends and family across the border. And that was a real moment of unity where you saw those two friends. But also, completely selfishly, I was very proud to be Pakistani in that moment. I think I was the only Pakistani where I was sat and I was just going absolutely nuts. It was just, I don't know, it showed the power of sport and also his background. He grew up in a village in Pakistan. He didn't have a lot of money, you know, and so it's those types of stories that kind of I get emotional about and find massively inspiring. So that was my absolute favourite moment.
So would you say that that moment also impacted Pakistani communities globally, not just from England, even France and Pakistan? Would you say that?
Yeah, it really did. Like, everybody was going bananas in Pakistan, but also I could just see on my TikTok, because I had posted, you know, about what had happened, and there were so many people Pakistanis from around the world that were messaging me, wanting to know what that moment was like, wanting to see if I had any pictures of the time. And I think, you know, there are a lot of sports that we're not great at in Pakistan, so to have just those few, I mean, cricket, we are amazing, I'll put that out there. So to add another sport to the list of the few that, you know, we are good at was great, and I hope that it inspires a culture and more of an understanding of the importance of physical activity in the country.
Great. Okay. So going back to your radio.
Yeah.
We have asked you to prepare 3 of your favourite songs.
Yes.
These don't have to be, this can be from your past, this can be for playing on the radio, but could you please share what that's like in choosing new music?
That's a horrible question to ask a radio presenter, by the way. I was just like, oh my God, what am I going to possibly choose? So I've had to write a few down. Okay, and you know, the temptation here is to say something really cool. I don't know how people do Desert Island Discs and choose only 5 songs and don't get in their head about, oh gosh, but I thought about the first songs that come to mind for me. So I thought, well, let's get something classic, something a bit more contemporary, and then maybe something that means something to me. So the first is Rusted Root, Send Me On My Way, which is a song you might not have ever heard, but if you've watched Matilda, the original film, which you need to watch if you haven't, it's one of the songs in that film. And I love Matilda growing up, and I love reading growing up, but Matilda as a character wants to escape, and she escapes through reading and also thankfully having a fantastic teacher like Miss Honey. And there's a lot of parallels between my personal journey growing up in Nottingham and actually wanting to escape things at home and finding things quite difficult. And then the hope in that song of you can be whatever it is you want to be. That it means a lot to me on an emotional level. And I remember as a kid, when things are really tough, I'd listen to that song and it would help me a lot. And I listen to it as an adult as well. So that's the first one. It's quite a personal one. The second one is just a great piece of music that I love playing on the radio because it's about 6 minutes long. Not only is it fantastic, but it's great if you need to go for a wee, which you often need to do when you're on the radio, if you're live for ages. So Elton John, Tiny Dancer, thank you for providing me 6 minutes of absolute utter joy. The composition is, I don't know, it's just one of those songs that will never get old, and I just think is utterly fantastic, and I can listen on loop. And I'm quite tiny and like dancing, so I feel like it's about me. And the final one, I thought I would choose something more contemporary. I love Olivia Dean's new song, Man I Need. I think that she's amazing. I love all of the music that she creates. I think she's an incredibly exciting artist. So I thought I would choose something that you would perhaps know as well, rather than just the archives from like 100 years ago when I was growing up.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
So in the future, if there's anything that you want to do, anything else you want to do?
That's such a big question, isn't it? I think from a professional standpoint, I would love to be able to continue what I am doing at BBC Radio Nottingham and presenting the breakfast programme there in the short term. That's really important to me, and I care about Notts and I care about stuff like this, you know, trying to do your little part to help the community in Notts, whether that's young people or otherwise. I think beyond that, I would love to take that vision to work abroad in some capacity, hopefully in developing countries, and use what I've learned from sport to, you know, the journalism, to the radio and the TV stuff, to tell the stories that I feel are important to tell around the world.
So obviously your route into journalism wasn't a normal route into journalism at all. You've had lots of twists and turns, but what would you give, say, to me and Faye, a good advice to young journalists starting to get into the profession themselves?
Your currency in journalism is often your stories and your ideas, and anybody can find a great story. Everybody has an incredible personal story, whether you see that or not. And you'll have brilliant ideas that might need a little bit of help and treatment. But what I would say is wherever you are starting in your career, whether you're right at the beginning or in your 50s and 60s having worked for decades, that is your currency. So find great stories. The other thing that I would also say is that the media landscape has changed a lot compared to when I started. I mean, Instagram did exist, I'm not that old. However, what that also comes with is, what I mean now is that there are multiple platforms where you can share your work. I get that working at a big company like the BBC or ITV or Sky is great, it is, I'm not taking away from that. But the strategies within those organisations now is digital first. That means online, that means social media. So when you guys are creating your TikToks, actually you're learning how to edit, and you're learning how to edit really short form, and that's kind of exactly the media world that we're working in at the moment. So I wouldn't shun the fact that actually there are platforms available to you right now where you can practice and gain really, really valuable skills, like social media, which I wouldn't be surprised, you know, social media in terms of some of the stories that we do on BBC Radio Nottingham, sometimes it may be that the reel of the story outweighs the amount of views or the amount of listeners that we hear on the radio. Does that make sense? So more people might view the reel than people that hear it on the radio. That kind of just goes to show, or possibly even on the telly. So I would really hone your skills there on social media, and just remember that you do have a platform. You don't have to work for a big organisation to have one. So share your stories.
Thank you so much. Thanks for coming in as well.
You're welcome.
And I know you've got a very busy schedule. Thanks for
It's
taking
fine,
time
don't
out of
worry.
your day to come see us.
You're welcome.
That's all from us in Nottingham College in the studio. We'll see you again soon. Goodbye.
Cut.